Welcome to the Bonita Springs Area Chamber of Commerce podcast. I'm Tiffany Esposito, President and CEO, and I'm here today with Ben, who's running for District 4 in Bonita Springs City Council. Welcome, Ben.
Thank you very much, Tiffany. I'm glad to be here.
We appreciate you. If you want to go ahead and just kick us off and tell us about yourself, how long you've lived in Bonita Springs, and your involvement in the community.
Moved to Bonita Springs in 2005, where I built my home in the Golf and Country Club area. Prior to that, I lived in Key West, and prior to that, before retiring, I was a dean and vice president for academic affairs at the Massachusetts College of Pharmacy and Science in Boston. And when I decided to move to Bonita Springs, I did a lot of research on it, and I said that this is a young town. I had to get out of Key West. It was a little bit too wild for me. And I've been extremely happy living here the last several years because it's a city on the move. I'm just very excited about the potential, and I'm looking forward to the downtown development and all the other good things that come with expansion.
And why are you running for City Council?
That's an excellent question. I put a lot of value into outreach, and I think I've got a history of that. When I was a young professor, I did a lot of drug abuse education throughout the small towns and cities of New England, and it just made me feel good to be able to do things like that and to meet a lot of very nice people. When I came to Bonita Springs, I felt the same way too. I volunteered with the developer to sort of settle some problems with the homeowners who had punch lists they weren't being responded to. Next thing you know, we had turnover from the developer, and I became president. I've been president of that HOA now for 6 out of the 8 years, and on the board all along. I just like to be involved and solve problems, and I think those kinds of skills are going to help me if I win on the city council. There's so many opportunities in the city for people to volunteer, and it's such a great feeling when you do volunteer for somebody. I don't care whether it's giving a lecture somewhere, whether it's working with some senior group, whether it's working with a literary society, whatever it might be. We're a diverse city, 56,000 people. In that city, in our city, in my city, we probably have talent from an astrologer to a zoologist. And I'd like to get more and more people involved. I know there's a committee entitled the Outreach Committee, Advisory Committee for the city. I'd like to see them really expand into areas where people can we have to educate people about the need to volunteer. And that's one of the strengths I hope that I bring to the city council should I be elected. So that to me is one of the reasons I'm running. And beyond that, it's an exciting time for the city, and I'm so anxious to be able to see the downtown development, which I think we'll talk about a little bit. So that's pretty much why I'm running. My friends think I'm crazy, but I like to be involved, and I'm looking forward. I'm in the middle of the campaign. I'm looking forward to a successful outcome.
Fantastic. So yes, following up on the downtown redevelopment,
Yes.
What are your thoughts on it, and what would you like to see developed there?
I am very excited about the potential for Imperial Crossing. In mixed use, where you have people who are going to be looking for housing. You have small commercial development, small businesses. I'm definitely a champion of small businesses. Once I retired as dean, I actually had a small business. I bought a small ice cream shop in Key West. I'll tell you, you can be in academics for years, and until you start dealing with a small business, I have a real sensitivity to how difficult it can be. So I'm excited about it. I like the idea of a mixed use of the development, and the idea of small shops, more parking, of course. I'm all excited about it, and I think that it'll be a tremendous success. The RFPs went out last week, and I'm looking forward to be sitting on council and going over those and hopefully choosing the right mix for our community.
Great. Something that's been in the headlines lately is the food truck ordinance.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk to us about how you feel about that?
I support any small business. Should there be regulations? Of course, with any type of operation like that. I attended the last city council meeting where this was discussed. There were a lot of people who spoke, and it was rather exciting for me to listen to very positive commentary from the public, those who had some food trucks, those who were contemplating. In fact, I have some neighbors who spoke at that meeting, and I said they did an excellent job trying to be an advocate, for food trucks. And then again, you have the brick and mortar. So you have that little bit of perhaps some people would think it's a conflict, but I don't think it should be, because they should also be part of this to be able to have food trucks. So it's small business. I'm all excited about it, and I'm looking forward to seeing the regulations coming up at a meeting, and whether I'm successful or not, I will speak out in favor of it, definitely.
Great. If you're elected, what role do you plan on playing in the existing council, and what organizations or topics would you most likely be involved with?
I'm an individual who likes to, as I said before, support outreach. I know one of the major problems facing the city right now is the whole area of stormwater mitigation for flooding. We got a wake-up call back at the end of 2017. Irma, everybody blamed, but Irma was only the capstone of a summer that gave us as much rain as we get in a whole year. I saw the flooding, I saw people crying, I saw people having to be knee deep in water. We have to do better than that. And I know over the years the city infrastructure probably has failed here and there. I do support the stormwater utility. Matter of fact, I'm chair of a group in the Golf and Country Club area, steering committee, and one of my major emphasis would be in the area of stormwater mitigation. There's a lot of support for that. Doesn't mean I'm anti-development, not at all. But we have 110 acres of available land, and just think if that becomes all asphalted and so forth, that means more runoff. So I think the city has got to look very seriously at it. I believe it is, and there's an opportunity perhaps to get some of that land and to make it a stormwater kind of a retention facility, and also some perhaps biogenerators, an opportunity to let nature kind of take care of it. And there's always that balance between development and retention of natural resources. I think I can play a big role in that particular area. And you never know what city councils are going to do. You can't predict the votes. I'm president of my HOA, and I have to tell you, we have 5 people. You think I can predict? I know how I'm going to vote probably on an issue, but I have no idea how they're going to vote. Mm-hmm. So I think I'm a good, effective change agent. I like to listen before I act, and follow the law, follow whatever the ordinances are as a first step, but also wait till other people speak, and then I can have my say once I hear all the input.
Mm-hmm. Great. What will you do to help improve regional economic development?
I think we have to do more with the commissions, Lee County Commission. I don't think we do enough. I would like to see more liaisons. I'm a very strong supporter of a marriage between the public and the private sector. We have to do more of it. I think the heart of any community, frankly, is really small business. I really and truly do. I had a small business some years back, and I learned an awful lot. You can have all the degrees in the world, but until you start dealing with the public, until you start dealing that sometimes, when you turn that key in the morning, you don't know where you're going to be when you close it at nighttime. And I think we need to do more outreach to the areas I think we have to deal with. I think we're effectively dealing with the state on a lot of issues. But I think we need to have a more definite commitment to work with potential developers, that there's always some place in the middle where you can reach a compromise. And when people take a hard stand, right or left, on a particular issue, and I'll take a position perhaps sometimes it's very hard, but I know I'm not going to end up there. It's for discussion. And then you listen to somebody else on the opposing end. When I'm involved in a meeting, one thing I don't have much patience for is you keep talking and talking. When there's a time to make a decision, I know I can be decisive and help that process. But I don't like things that continue on and on and on. So I'm kind of a guy that likes to not push things necessarily, but also know the process got to end some point. And so again, marriage between the private and public sector, strong supporter.
Fantastic. What do you think is one of the next steps we should take to improve our transportation problems?
Wow, that's a great one. I'm excited about the development of the downtown area. At the same time, I know what it's like to sit to get through that West Terry circle. So I'm not an engineer, even though I was in the sciences, I'm not an engineer. But there's got to be a solution where we could make the downtown vital. I know we hear the term, well, it's going to be a destination spot. Well, I would agree. But without the infrastructure, I mean, people are going to use Old 41. I live in an area where I used to, the Shangri-La Road, which opened up, which took 5 years. But there's a high school there. But people are using that as an alternative. They're using Imperial for access. It's a mess. It really is. Then you have the downtown area, the intersection, infamous intersection between 41 and Bonita Beach Road. I know there's a quadrant study. So I believe you can have perhaps break off roads, for instance, coming north on Old 41. Maybe there's a way to cut through and have a direct connection into East Terry. I have no idea. But if we don't do something about the road situation, people say, well, it's season. And everybody's telling me this year, do you ever see it so bad? It is rough out there. So we need to do something, whatever that is. And I know the city is undertaking a lot of studies. I do support the quadrant study and see what happens with that. But we have to do something beyond where we are right now.
Yep, absolutely. What are 3 key issues you'll focus on if elected to the council?
Again, the first one has to be stormwater management. That is something that affected an awful lot of people. They never had to deal with flooding before, and that scared people. It really and truly did. Those who might be pro 100% development got a wake-up call. So that's number one. We have to make sure that our lakes and waters, I don't like the idea of the red tide. We have to do something. You know, Bonita Springs is at the end of the road, and Naples kind of says, we don't want your water. So we have to do something ourselves. And I'm really concerned about the whole water situation. We've got to I'm all supportive of you know, having an opportunity for working with other communities, be it Lee County, perhaps even Naples. We need to get more, I guess, even statewide help to have one type of integrated, comprehensive plan for water. And right now, we're not quite there yet. We're doing a lot of small things, but we have to really work together to make the entire area, you know, amenable to proper water outflow and so forth, and prevent flooding. I know I made that comment last night at a forum, and I said my commitment is primarily is going to be that. With respect to the other issues, development, infrastructure problems, and growth. I also like to see us make an effort towards welcoming or somehow making housing in such a way that young people would come here with their families to make this a destination spot. I know in a small town, I have a place in Gunkwood, Maine, and the aging population there it's increased quite a bit. It's up to like 65 or 66. Here, I think it's in the mid-50s. Now, to me, that's a young age, relatively speaking. But what are we going to do to bring in younger people? Because the communities are aging. I've had people moved into my community, and it's not a senior community, but just we weren't seniors, I guess, when we all built our homes and stuff. So I'm hoping we can do something to attract a younger population into the city, as well as businesses. I'm all for that. I want to see proper expansion, but I also want to see the city really thrive and have additional sources of revenue. And also the fact that we need to do something about people don't like to raise taxes. I certainly don't like to raise taxes, but we have to have a financial plan. And the only way we're going to get there, I think, is to have perhaps a working coalition between developers and the city to, you know, you do this, you restructure that stream that is going this way because of development, you put it this way. So I'm hoping we need to work more together and stop being adversaries. I think we see enough of that at the national level, and I'm hoping that Bonita Springs never gets to that particular point. So I'm a definitely strong supporter of working coalitions with people we perhaps don't listen to too often.
Great. Do you have any closing comments?
Yeah, other than this is a new experience for me. I'm enjoying it. It's exciting, and I'm looking forward to hopefully be a member of the City Council. I know how it is to deal with people with problems. I think I'm a good problem solver, and I think I'm pretty good actually in the area of conflict resolution. So sometimes you see where two factions get together and believe me, being from New England originally, common sense plays a huge part in resolving problems, and I think we need a little bit more of it. The only problem with common sense is it's not very common. I thank you very much for this opportunity. I really enjoyed it. I think your questions were probing, and I really thank you for this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for taking the time to be with us
You're
today.
welcome.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Chamber Chat. Don't forget to tune in next Tuesday for a brand new episode. You can find us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all major podcast platforms. Don't forget to subscribe.